And she's all, yeah, well, if you want me to do that, then don't eat the asparagus. I know, it's dumb, right, dude? Yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, what's up? I can't. I'm supposed to be working on this game review. I've been meaning to do for a long time. Yeah, I just don't really know which one to talk about. I mean, it probably should be a fighting game since those are kind of my thing. Yeah, well, either way, I gotta figure this thing out. I don't know. It's tough, man. I haven't done this in so long. I don't really know even where to start. I mean, yeah, I'll call you back. How didn't I think of this before? Perfect!
Killer Instinct is a fighting game released in 2013 as an exclusive and tactically free-to-play title for the Xbox One, while also being possibly one of the most overlooked fighting games ever created. So before we dive into this, let's discuss why that may be. Is it a bad game? Well, hell no. Everyone I've ever played this game with has enjoyed it, and that's including people that don't really tend to play fighting games. No, the problem lies in what was, in my opinion, poor marketing, and the fact that it was exclusive and to a degree still is. Even after a Windows 10 release, the game is still technically Microsoft exclusive. This game also didn't really have any major marketing. And because of all these things, despite being pushed heavily by Maximilian Dood, the frontrunner of fighting game content on YouTube, the game has slowly fallen into obscurity, not even making it into this year's EVO. Where's a former pro fighting game player personality when you need it?
I go down on you if you pledge to Patreon, squeeze everything in, no one really complain.
My only hope is that this video can give the game a small bit of attention, be it ever so slight. With that all being said, let's talk about this thing. So, this being a fighting game, let's start by talking about the mechanics. And boy, is there a ton to say. Killer Instinct takes your standard fighting game rock, paper, scissors to a whole new level. But I'll talk more about the rock, paper, scissors after we go over a few mechanics of the game. Let's talk about the combo game. This isn't like your standard fighting game in this regard, and that's something you'll hear a lot in this video. When you start a combo, a little meter appears under your health bar called the KV meter, and fills as you hit your opponent. When this meter is filled completely, your opponent blows out of the combo. That is something that you'll want to avoid. Every combo is started with what is called an opener, a special move that keeps your opponent grounded and begins a combo. To extend a combo, simply hit a button after an opener, light, medium, or heavy, and your character will do what are called auto doubles. 2 hits of a certain strength that lead you to performing a linker, which is another special move that is also used as either a light, medium, or heavy, generally being 1, 2, or 3 hits reflecting the strength used. Now, if that wasn't different enough already, the damage is also unique. As you combo your opponent, the vast majority of the damage they take is potential damage, which is damage that they aren't actually taking until you perform an ender to cash out the combo. As the KV meter fills up, you'll see dots below it slowly light up. These represent the level of ender you will get if you cash out the damage then and there. The higher level ender, the more damage you get. There are also enders that give you meter, advantageous positioning, or afflict your opponent with certain effects. All of these in place of more damage, and you can use different enders depending on the situation. And of course, these things can change vastly when you take into account unique character traits, and of course, juggles are also a thing. And finally, what makes this game so amazing: the breaker system. This makes this game so intense, so mental, that it transcends the traditional mental game present in fighters today. While getting comboed, if you hit both your punch and kick buttons at the same time while getting hit by a move that is the same strength as the buttons you're hitting, light, medium, or heavy, you will perform what is called a combo breaker. This removes all potential damage on your health bar and resets both you and your opponent back to a neutral position. Now, of course, this wasn't enough. We also needed the counter breaker mechanic, Where the breaker mechanic is reaction-based, the counter breaker mechanic is completely read-based, and hitting one will net you a huge payoff, whereas missing one will ensure that you get punished. At any point, while you are the one comboing your opponent, if you feel that they may try to break you, you can hit both medium kick and punch to enter a counter stance. And while in this stance, if your opponent tried to break you, it is reversed back on them, completely resetting the KV meter, keeping all your previous potential damage, and engaging the lockout mechanic that prevents your opponent from even attempting further combo breakers after breaking incorrectly, or being counter-broken. Light hits are fast and difficult to react to, but do the least amount of damage and fill up the KV meter the quickest, forcing you to end your combos quickly for minimal damage in exchange. Mediums are just that, the moderate in-between option, and heavies are slow and easy to react to, but do the most damage by far. A common thing to do is to use heavies that are slow and obvious to bait a breaker out of your opponent. If this works, and you use a counter breaker immediately after heavies, and you successfully counter break them, you get to look at your opponent and say,
"Congratulations, you played yourself."
These are things that just make this game so great. And we're not even done yet, people. Let's talk about shadow moves. Now, I mentioned meter earlier. Well, that meter is used to perform enhanced versions of special moves called shadow moves. These can be openers, wake-up options, juggle and or combo extenders, enders, and you get the idea. Almost anything you use special moves for, shadow moves do the same, just better. Of course, this is too simple for Killer Instinct. Of course, we have to go one layer deeper. This brings us to Shadow Counters. While breakers enhance the mental game for combos, Shadow Counter provides a similar option in the neutral. Performed the same way as a counter breaker, a Shadow Counter will put you into the same guard stance. But upon getting hit while in this stance, your character will immediately counter with a shadow move opener, starting a combo on your opponent for free. The most common use of this is when your opponent uses a shadow move and you block it. Most shadow moves are 5 hits, so it's easy to initiate a shadow counter window on the 4th hit and make the 5th hit start a shadow counter. I cannot express anymore how awesome shadow counters are and how much they do for the neutral game of Killer Instinct. As if it wasn't good enough already. But once again, we aren't done talking about this game yet. I could make an entire video only about the mechanics and interactions in this game, but instead of doing that, right now at least, let's talk about unique character traits and instinct mode. Now, like I said, I actually plan on making a series of videos about each Killer Instinct character in the future called my Killer Instinct Character Analysis series, simply because there is way too much to say about how unique every character in this game is. But to provide a few examples, TJ Combo has the ability to come back with 25% health one time after having his health reduced to 0. Arbiter has a gun that he can fire a limited number of times per match, and can use it for many things. On top of this, he has grenades that refill throughout the match, and those can also be a real pain for anybody fighting against the Arbiter. And Mira uses her health to do most of the things that she has to do, but in return has one of the best mix-up games as well as the highest damage of any character and some of the best overall stats. These are just a few examples of how much variety this game offers in terms of character selection and mechanics. And now the final thing to touch on in terms of unique character traits is, well, in the title of the game, Instinct Mode. As you get hit, your instinct bar slowly fills up, and once completely full, you can hit both Heavy Punch and Heavy Kick to go into Instinct Mode. This can be used to extend a combo, try to counter an approach, or bait things, but that's just the activation of it. While actually in Instinct Mode, you gain buffs that are once again completely unique to your character. And I'll discuss those a lot further in the analysis videos I plan on making. Yeah, everyone tends to have a character that they kinda gravitate towards from the start and really take a liking to, but in no game except for Killer Instinct have I had such a want to play almost every character in the game, and that's because of their skill at designing unique and amazing characters. So while we're in the process of talking about the game's design and the uniqueness of it, I think it's a good time to bring up content, and what this game has to offer in terms of replayability. Now, it's understandable considering the game probably had the budget of a small tuna sandwich, but yeah, the story really sucks. Kind of like another game's story mode that just came out, except that game has no excuses.
Sigma must be destroyed.
A suicide mission into the heart of enemy territory? I'm interested. Tell me more.
Mainly, the story mode in Killer Instinct is just still models with no animation and zero dialogue between characters. I mean, zero dialogue between characters. It's just narration and exposition, and it's very boring and forgettable. And of course, Maximilian Dood hyped the ever-living crap out of this terrible story mode, which kind of helped make people be more disappointed in it. Which, all things considered, is totally understandable considering he was working on the game at the time. But still, it just goes to show you hype can be dangerous.
And as far as
Max
going out of their way to build it up, you are fake news.
But on the flip side of that, let's talk about Shadow Lords. Shadow Lords was a mode that was added to the game a little later on in its life, to mark the release of the character Gargos. And it's actually pretty fun. You have a hub, equipment, and usable items that add some nice depth, and you deploy characters on missions to fight mimic characters to try to reduce Gargos' buffs for when you ultimately must fight him in the end. Different Guardians which you equip have cool and unique effects to make fights more fun, and it's a lot of fun to try different Guardians with different characters to see which ones fit which character. It feels genuinely rewarding to play and unlock rare Guardians. So, this mode was definitely a welcome addition to the game. It adds a lot of depth and a fun way to level up your characters. But since we're on the subject of content, in order to get to it, you have to first own the game. So let's talk about purchasable content and unlockable content. So as in every game, of course, you have to pay for it. It's a free download and you get a few free characters, but you can choose to buy the rest for either $5 each, or buy seasons in huge packs with nice extras like costumes. Generally, it's a great deal when you buy the packs. As for unlockable content, there are a plethora of great and awesome looking colors, costumes, and accessories you can unlock to use on or offline. Seriously, some of these are really well done and don't even cost money. In fact, not much in the way of aesthetics at all can be even purchased if you wanted to. 90%, if not more, is just unlocked through leveling characters. Now the catch is that leveling characters all the way can take a crazy long time unless you have a booster, which you do have to purchase with money. But all in all, the game doesn't make you pay for anything other than, well, the game itself, which is pretty sick. And if you want to level up characters to unlock costumes and colors, like I said earlier, Shadow Lords is pretty fun. So all in all, some final thoughts for this game. Guys, the online play is butter smooth. I have never played a game with such good online servers in my entire life. I actually have a few videos up. Keep in mind they were recorded a long time ago and they're not even on this channel, but if you want to watch them to see how good the online play is and how little lag there is, you can check them out. Links will be in the description. The game is fantastic to play online. On top of that, it probably has, and this is going to be a bold statement, but I would say the best soundtrack I've ever heard in a game. Not in a fighting game, in a game. It's so diverse. It goes from orchestra to rock to techno in some places to horror music, and it's all so well made that it's one of the only game soundtracks that years after I first discovered it, I still regularly listen to it. And the stage design in the game is nothing to gawk at. And you also have stage ultras, which I didn't even mention earlier, but yeah, those are in there, and they look pretty awesome. Guys, Killer Instinct is possibly one of the most overlooked fighting games ever made, and all I can hope, like I said in the beginning of the video, is that this video can provide some much needed attention and hopefully shine a small spotlight onto the game, however brief and however small. This game needs to make it back to EVO, because it's got a great competitive scene and some really cool players, and I would love to see it back. But that's all I have to say about Killer Instinct, and guys, if you have an Xbox One or a computer, please check the game out.